By the time we get to chapter 12 of Revelation, which is where we are now, we're beginning to feel a little more confident with all this picture language that John is using. It's just like when you learn any new language, really. At first it's just all a jumble of sounds, then one or two sounds start to become a little more distinct and stand out. You can recognise them. Then a few more, and before long you're trying out sentences of your own. So now in chapter 12, the talk of dragons, a woman with a crown of stars on her head, and an archangel fighting the dragon, well, it's just not so scary anymore. At least, I hope it isn't. Chapter 12 shows us God's view of what's going on as the church begins, as Jesus is born, and then the church grows after his death, resurrection, ascension, and Pentecost. We can decode the signs better now, so we can see that the woman in the first half of the chapter probably represents Mary, pregnant with God's Son, Jesus. Then in the final verse of the chapter, she may represent the whole church, whose children are the growing number of believers across the Roman Empire and beyond. The male child stands for Jesus, the dragon his enemy, the enemy of everyone. For a few chapters now he's been lurking in the shadows, his actions seen, but he himself not named. Now, in verse 9 of chapter 12, he's named as that ancient snake called the devil, or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. From God's viewpoint, we can see that the very real attacks that Satan launched on Jesus and on the infant church were meant to succeed. Through the actions of King Herod, Satan genuinely tried to kill Jesus as a baby. He tried to kill off the church, and he tried to, and still tries to, kill off Christians. Satan means business. But chapter 12 also spells out more clearly what's already been hinted at in earlier chapters. Satan is doomed. Michael, God's warrior archangel, has had Satan in his sights for long ages and threw him out of heaven at God's command. For all his impressive weaponry, Satan will lose. He leads people astray by trying to persuade them that he, not God, is in control. But as with everything else to do with Satan, that's a lie. The chapter ends, as so often, on a note of suspense. Frustrated in his plot to destroy Jesus, the dragon turns his attention to Jesus' followers, the faithful ones who keep God's commands and hold fast to his testimony. Today, why not research one country in the world where Christians are facing death and destruction for obeying God's commands and holding fast to his testimony, and pray for them to know his protection?